and welcome to the View from 4 Feet and 3 Inches. I'm your host, Cassidy Huff. I am a white woman. Today I have a white background behind me because I have a virtual guest on with me today. I have a blue tank top on, black glasses, and my hair is tied up. And today I have one of my dear friends on. I say that every single time. But Wes, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Cassidy. Okay, let me try to do this. I am out of practice.
You got it.
I am a white man with shaved head, wearing headphones, long mustache, goatee, septum ring, lip ring, white rimmed glasses, he him pronouns. Is there
Love
anything
that.
I'm missing?
No, that sounds great. What are you wearing?
Um we're just getting started there, Kat. It's a black shirt.
Okay. Okay. Good job. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you. You have your
Mm-hmm.
tea, I have my coffee.
Yep.
We're quite the pair every time. If you don't know, I've been on Wes's podcast twice now.
Yep.
So if you want to hear a little more unfiltered version of us, go check that out. A little more off the rails. Although I don't know because my last podcast or my two episodes ago was just about ducks. So I don't really know if it can get
Well,
more off the rails than that. But we'll see how uncensored we get in this episode.
yeah. I am gonna work really hard to behave myself and not try and take Cassidy into the darkness as I tend to on disabled land. But yeah.
Yeah, so Wes has a podcast called Disabled Land, right?
Yep.
I should know. I've been on it twice. And I just looked back in our messages while we were having some tech issues. I just like scrolled back up, and apparently I had followed you, and that's how we like you'd been following me for a while because your first message was to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, like thank you so much for the follow. I love your content, and that was how we connected.
Yeah, well, we both know I am the bad boy in this whole thing of like I am the one that is constantly like making people angry and getting follows and then getting unfollows and getting follows and getting unfollows. So
But
for
I've
me to
stayed.
Oh no, I know. But like for me, it was just shocking to me. It's like holy heck, this like I'm working so hard here. this
He's really trying. I'm so
I'm
touched.
really, I have to let you know, disabled land, there is a lot of profanity. I don't filter there. I am working very, very hard here.
I
I know
appreciate
it's not
it.
entirely necessary, but I'm trying.
I
I'm
see the
trying.
pain in your face every time. Anyways, continue.
Golly gee willikers, where were we? Yeah, I was just amazed that like someone of like your level in this at this point even knew who I
What does that
was.
even mean?
Well, you're all like famous and stuff, and
That's a
I
lie.
am I am just like some punk from the streets. So
That's also a lie. I feel like that's not true though. First of all,
you're the one like hanging out with dignitaries and
okay,
all
not
that. You're
hanging out. That is such an over exaggeration. I'm not hanging out with dignitaries. I don't know where you got that from. Certainly not right now. Am I hanging out with
well,
dignitaries?
not now.
Not
No,
now.
no. We've entered the dark times.
We've
I
entered
mean,
the dark ages,
we were
truthfully.
supposed to record this yesterday, which was going to add to our continued record of just us talking on like either historically
Horrible
terrible
days.
times or the anniversaries of horrible historic like times. Like
So
it was
if you're listening to this later, I think this will come out in probably a few weeks. Um, we were supposed to record this episode yesterday, which was January 20th, which is in the US inauguration day. So I'm in the US, Wes is in Canada. And we have this really, I don't know whether to call it a bad habit, just a habit of recording on days like that, where it's like we recorded my episode on his podcast. The last one we
January
recorded was
6th.
January 6th. And then we recorded, like, what was it, like a month before the election before that?
Well, yeah, canonically, you've been on twice. Once it was a month before the election, because
Right.
it was the Crypt the Vote, Get Out and Vote campaign.
Right.
And then there was the one that we talked for almost an hour before we realized I had forgotten to hit record.
I will say though, because of that mistake that you made, I am always hyper aware now
Oh
on my
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, me
I'm
me
like, no, I
too.
will hit record.
Me too. Like two recordings after that, I had a sticky note on my laptop of like, don't forget to hit record.
Please
Cause
record.
yeah, we're like 45 minutes in to an hour podcast, and I'm like,
It was such a good conversation too.
I'm looking down at the thing because I remember looking down and like I record on Riverside and it shows how long I hadn't used it for a while, and then I looked at it, I'm like, shouldn't this be showing me how long I've been recording for? Why is it not doing? Oh crap!
Yeah. Okay, so you have a podcast. I don't know this story. Why did you start it? When did you start it?
Oh, okay. How much of this can I tell?
What does that mean?
Well, no, it just okay. How does this begin? Okay, I
You don't even
had.
know?
Well, no, some of it is a little bit weird, and I genuinely can't remember exactly how some of it started.
Mm.
I started just trying to make any watching YouTube videos of like during shortly before COVID of like, how do you make money? How do you make money on the internet? What can you do to make money?
Am disabled. I'll make money.
I made $100,000 selling three-legged bear merch on the internet. How can you do that too? So I was old and desperate and disabled and falling into the how can I make money by any means necessary thing. I started with snark t-shirts. Somehow that evolved into disabled snark t-shirts, which, and I'd always done like background acting work, things like
Do you still
that.
sell those? Can I have one?
The t-shirts, yeah, the shop is still open.
Okay, I'll look.
Disabledland.threadless.com.
Got it.
And so I'm doing that, and I'm doing the I don't remember what my Instagram account was, but I think that was like my background work account or something that I then just scrapped, and it became Disabled Land from there.
Right, because you're in
Th-
film.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that till recently.
Well, I don't like saying I'm in film because I only ever did background work. I've never even had a
That's still
speaking role.
film.
Yeah, it is, but sometimes some things I feel like I talk myself up a little more, and
You're
some
like,
things I
actually,
talk myself down. Yeah.
I was, opposite Tom Cruise in that one movie.
I did shoulder block Paris Hilton once
There you
during a
go.
rehearsal. I have been seen naked at the TIFF International Film Festival and I believe Cannes, in a Brandon Cronenberg short. I mean
Like
that's
that.
just honest stuff. But no, I had been doing the disabled band thing as social media for I don't know how long, for almost 5 years. What is time anymore? Truth and time have been destroyed. It doesn't matter anymore.
True.
And I, excuse me, I ended up talking with, because despite the fact not all medical parents hate me, just a
Mine
select
doesn't.
few, and well, that's good.
My mom
And
loves you.
I ended up, I was working for the Bitching and Bollocing podcast, a great disability parenting podcast. They are incredible. I can't put them over enough. And so I was doing that, and it was sort of it. We kind of talked ourselves into, well, why don't you just do a podcast on our feed as well? And one week it'll be Bitching Ballsing, one week it will be Disabled Land.
Mm.
Uh, so I started setting up to do Disabled Land. I got the equipment and everything. That immediately did not work. So I got my own feed that was funded by them, and we just talked about each other a lot. And then, oh, I guess June, there was a big blow up because some other medical moms got snotty. And we decided it was best for both sides of us to make sure that I could still do what I need to do,
Right.
and they can hopefully still do what they need to do to just part ways professionally.
Right.
And so, yeah, I guess Disabled Land as an entity has been going on for about 6 years now.
Okay.
And Disabled Land, the podcast, will be a year old in April, I
Only a
think.
year?
Yeah, yeah. I've only been going.
Oh, wow.
This time last year. I was getting the laptop and microphone showed up,
Oh, wow.
and I was starting to record.
I thought you've been going for way longer than that.
No, no, it
You're
was
younger
just
than
about a
I
year.
am then in podcast land because my podcast started in February of
Yeah,
last year.
probably yeah. Because I think April was when I dropped my first episode.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then shortly after we did the great parting between myself and Bitching and Bossing and essentially broke up what was going to be a network, I just said, okay, let's just make it full then. And I went and got my own Podbean account and I moved everything over. That's why if you go to Disabled Land right now, you'll see a lot of the episodes are like, a lot of stuff looks like it was uploaded like a month ago over a period of like a week, but I've got like original airing dates there
Right.
because I couldn't figure out how to move it without just deleting and moving,
Right.
and so re-uploaded everything, and yeah, now Disabled Land is completely under disabled control.
Disabled control.
There are no
A disabled regime, if you
yeah, yes, yeah. We're gonna rename it the Gulf of Disabled Land. We've gotten rid of Medical Mama Bear Mountain. If you listen to the early episodes, you'll understand that reference. Brenda
I'm
has been
curious.
fired.
Have you ever actually so Wes in his podcasts has basically come up with this whole fictional land. And I love it. But have you ever actually sat down and like drawn it out?
No, I haven't, and I've dropped. If you listen to the early episodes, I've
Uh-huh.
dropped off things a lot. Just because a lot of it was just me coming up with it, but when I sat down to record.
Sure.
The whole Brenda and Medical Mama Bear Mountain came out of was inspired by a parenting podcast that I
Right.
absolutely despise. Ironically enough, that they were the ones that decided to cause a lot of trouble for me. And then I literally started that episode with like, no, I gave you your own little piece of land here. Behave yourselves. And yeah, apparently that just immediately rubbed people the wrong way and started causing me problems. But no, I mean, canonically, there is a one-winged duck pond. I
The
haven't
ducks
really.
are amputees?
Yep, I haven't refuted. I haven't referenced
That's so
that in a
cute.
while. The
And we're
ducks are
back to the ducks. This is
the
another duck podcast.
we're not going to talk about ducks a lot. You've told me about the ducks. We don't feed them bread. But yeah, so it started with that. It started as the character of basically I've created my own little world
Yeah.
with like my own little cast members. Brenda was there for a while. Brenda had a friend Gwen who always caused problems. They're both gone. Brenda got fired because she voted MAGA.
As she should.
Yep.
She should be gone.
I've got Robbie, who is my assistant, who was an able-bodied college student who came to Disabled Land one day, decided to have a little too much to drink, decided to make trouble, and we dealt with him.
And he's gone.
Was that oh no, he's not gone. He's Robbie
Oh.
now. He's better. He's one of us. This was the intro when I covered Todd Browning's Freaks in like episode 4.
Oh my god.
Robbie got taken care of. Robbie got made into one of us.
Disabled now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Severely. But he's having a much better life now. I just took him down to Daytona Beach to the Buc-ee's so that we could pick up our 3-legged grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to have fun with it. I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, and when I got to the podcasts that were talking about disability, they were just sort of like very straightforward, and here is the disability trauma dump of the week
Yeah.
or whatever, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I am like, through my Insta content, everything, I am very snarky. I am very talk back. I don't mind punching up at Abel.
Well, my question is, have you always been that way? Because I feel like a lot of disabled people, like specifically
For
me,
the
I'll just
most
talk
part.
like my experience. Like I'm very on a lower level that way too, but I have not always been that way. Like when I was younger, I was very, I don't want to say timid, like I've always been really outgoing, but as far as my opinions go, I was pretty shy about like speaking my mind about something that wasn't widely known. I was pretty like I didn't talk back to people unless it was like in my direct circle. I just wouldn't do that. Like I was a really, really good kid up until probably I started my activism, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this anymore. Like that's not who I
Yeah.
am.
I was a very smart ass child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my family is, I'm an only child, but my family is very much sort of that Roseanne humor. Like, everyone in my family is mouthy, everyone in my family tends to talk back, whatever. Um, and I was very much that way even as a little kid. I am
Right.
someone, ironically enough, I'm now 49 years old. My mouth is still getting me into trouble. I was always a mouthy kid, but I was also, probably until about the 10th grade, desperate to do anything to fit in.
Mm.
My CRIP credentials are that I have arthrogryposis and I'm 4'10". I've never used
I
any.
didn't know you have arthrogryposis.
Yep,
One of my best friends has arthrogryposis.
I told you that the first time we talked on the
I
podcast.
forgot.
You were just too amazed. It's like the cripple credentials. We can call them that.
Yeah, I was so excited of just about the label that because I remember that part.
Yeah, and so yeah, like yeah, that was the case. I mean, I walk with a heavy limp in one leg and a prominent one in the other. So I was like always this short little like Caucasian Webster limping my way around the playground or whatever. I was, at least until like my 30s, I was essentially always the smallest person in the room.
Yeah.
Like growing up, there were no like legit little people in my school or whatever.
Right.
So I was
And
pretty
you
much
don't have
always,
dwarfism, do you?
no,
You're just
no.
genetically small.
I was a sick, I come from a short family and I was a sickly kid.
Mm.
I mean, most of I don't think I have a member of my family that is above 5'8".
Mm.
And my mother is probably 5'2", 5'3". My father is maybe 5'5", something like that. So I don't come from tall family to begin with, and I
Right.
was a sickly child.
Right.
So like I was diagnosed with like failure to thrive and all that. I couldn't keep food down for a long time.
Mm.
Things like that. I was not a well child, so like I didn't grow a lot to begin with.
Right.
So I am like I bottomed out at like 4'10", I think 4'10 and a half. And then yeah, so like I was always a mouthy kid, but I was always the kid that was trying to fit in. I was the one and, the funny one
Yeah.
and either the self-deprecating humor or
Well, because that's the
whatever.
trope, right? Like we know we're
Oh
not
yeah,
going to be
exactly.
cool. So like
Exactly.
that's the way we get in to the cool crowd is to just be funny. That's the same
Yeah,
way. I mean, I was the same way.
but then did you come to a point where you started to realize that they still weren't laughing with you?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like a few of my good friends, I
yeah,
knew that they were laughing with me, but for the majority, I was like, "You don't like me. That's okay." I mean, I at that point was like, "No, it's not okay. You are going to like me." But
yeah.
now I'm like, "Girl, you didn't stand a chance." That's
Because,
okay.
like, and that was the thing. I realized that, and then I got into grade 9 and had been warned a lot by other people in grade 8. It's like, it is it was talked to me like you were going to Sing Sing, like you were going to prison, and
Pretty
it was
much.
like that like you being cute, that's not going to protect you anymore.
Yeah.
That you being small and cute, that's not good. So I went in and still thinking, still trying to ingratiate myself to people. I immediately tried to like make friends with the football team, like anything for protection.
Yeah. That's a smart move, actually.
Yeah, but it's still the same issue.
Mm.
And like by halfway through the 10th grade, I had shifted to like the juvenile delinquents and like the metal kids and, you know, what were the rapper kids at the time
Mm.
and stuff, and fallen into the more fighty cliques. And by the end of the 10th grade, I probably knew every drug dealer under the age of 20 in my city
I love that for you.
and was just sort of like, instead of like ingratiating myself by being cute and funny, it became much more of a Goodfellas situation.
Mm.
I say very much I went to the Martin Scorsese School of Disability. Of I have two versions of myself. I have the when I'm putting on a show, it is Joe Pesci in Goodfellas of you think I'm
Mm-hmm.
funny? What about me is funny? And
Yeah.
like they're very out there and very loud but small.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what you see on my Instagram. Is my anger is mostly performative.
Right.
I'm angry, but I'm putting on a show.
Right.
Disabled Land, the podcast, is very performative a lot of times.
Right.
Like, I'll break into the three-legged bear talk down at the Buc-ee's or whatever. When I'm actually mad, I'm assuming you've seen Goodfellas.
A little bit.
When I'm actually mad, and this part you've probably seen anyway because it's like a meme, but when I'm actually genuinely angry, I'm much more like Ray Liotta when he caves the guy's head in with the butt of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Of like just cold, if you touch again, I will.
Yeah.
Because there is a huge part of me that doesn't care.
Right.
The worst you can do to me is beat the crap out of me, and I'm already in constant pain. I don't. I have had very little problem mouthing off to just
Right.
about anyone. People twice my size, people that could kill me with a single punch. I have never cared.
Right.
And I've very, very, very rarely ever been called on it.
Yeah.
So it's worked for me. But yeah, I find if you put on a really big persona of like, I can remember quite clearly saying to one guy that I got into an argument with in a grocery store line over he was one of those people that wanted to put all his stuff in line at the 5 to 10 items and
Mm-hmm.
then keep shopping.
What?
And I said something snarky to him, and he turned around and said like, basically, and he wasn't that much bigger than me. He was like, I could basically, I could eat you for breakfast. I could like beat the crap out of you right here. And I just looked at him stone cold and said, yeah, you could, but I promise you, every day after this, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see what I did to you. Because I have always decided that I'm not going to win a fight,
Yeah.
but that's not going to stop me from like removing one of your ears or
Going
part
down
of your
swinging.
nose or something. Oh no, not swinging, biting.
But
Like I have very little punching strength. If I get a hold of you, you're going to have a whole lot of time getting me off of you. So like if I get you in like and if I get like even just one arm wrapped around
yeah.
you good and tight, I can just start biting and you're not going to get me off of you until you need major cosmetic surgery. So like if you want to do this, that's okay,
Yeah.
but bad things are going to happen to you too because I go into I try not ever since my nephew was born because I almost ended up in a really bad altercation like the week before my nephew was born
No.
where I thought I was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this is it. This guy's looking for something to stab me with. I'm going to die.
Right.
So I've been more careful about what I get into now. And even then, that wasn't me getting mouthy with someone for my sake. That was this guy was harassing a woman and a kid on public transit. And no one else was doing anything. So I stood up and I got that guy's attention off of them and put it on to me,
Yeah.
which was the plan. But there wasn't
Well,
any
too
help
far.
coming.
Yeah.
When the guy is looking in his pockets for like whatever he can stab you with, and there's like people with like cameras and stuff, it's like, okay, this is how it goes. This is how it
Hello.
goes. Yeah. So I have just been I've been the bad boy. Like I've haven't been afraid to run in circles that were in somewhat dangerous. And it's not like I'm like from the hood or anything, but growing up hanging out in downtown Barrie, Ontario with like just a strip of bars and then a couple video arcades wasn't always great at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, dangerous. Well, dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That's so interesting. We very much ran a different crowds.
Oh no, but you know what? I wish I could have run in your crowd. You got to remember, I'm like a whole Cassidy older than you, essentially. Like I turn 49 tomorrow.
You're you happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
You are a year older than my mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like we grew up in completely different generations
So
of
you grew up
disability.
before the ADA.
Well, no ADA
Well,
in Canada anyway,
yeah,
but yeah.
never mind. Does Canada have the ADA? Like as the formula?
I know that we do, but I know so very little about the political side of things. That's why I bring people onto the pod that do. I am not the educator of disability law. I am the educator of how to have a attitude problem. I am very much about changing the way disabled people carry themselves in the world and the amount of BS that they deal with in the world. And like, yeah, I refuse to take shit.
Right.
I refuse to. It's not wired into me. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think if more of us were like that, we would be a lot better off. So then people start, I see these accounts where these moms are like, oh, my baby has special needs. And I'm like, just feed them into a blender. Like, you're not helping them. And I don't mean literally, but you're not helping them
Right.
to deal with the world they are going to have to live in.
Right.
And I'm just like, like they're going to get eaten alive anyway if you keep doing this. So,
Yeah.
because you know what? The world doesn't care.
No.
Calling yourself special needs isn't going to make the world go, oh man, I got this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
I understand now.
No,
It's
oh,
not a
wait.
disability, it's just a special need.
Which is, in fact, the opposite of what you and I preach all the time.
Exactly. Like, I look at it as, okay, imagine if, I say this to the Ables of like, okay, you say your child has special needs. Imagine your boss walking up to you and saying something like, you're high maintenance, difficult to work with. You're costing this company too much money. It's the same damn thing.
Pretty much.
Like, no, no, no. There is no legal laws. Well, granted, legal laws are going away anyway now, but there is no, like, the United Nations doesn't have a doctorate for protecting people with special needs. It's
Right.
protecting disabled rights.
Right.
There is no, like, laws for special needs rights. We
Right.
didn't fight for 100 years to get special needs rights because they're not
Agree.
special needs; they're disabilities.
Right.
And just stop,
Well, and I
please.
always say, like, my needs aren't different from yours. I just,
Exactly.
can't do things. And that's okay.
Pretty much, or can't do things the same way. And yes, ultimately,
Yeah.
there are some things we can't do.
Yeah. But, like, I'm not going to be like, I can do anything I can put my mind to. Because physically, I just can't.
Yeah.
Am I gonna, if I see a goal and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna get there, then you better believe I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
But it just might not look the same way. I
Yeah.
just might need some help getting there.
Exactly. Exactly. And that help isn't a special need. It's your right to be able to get there.
Exactly.
So, and that's what people don't get. And they want to soften us. They want to make us soft. They want to keep us cute. I am the perfect example of what happens when you're not cute anymore. You've got to
Well,
find
and
something
strong
else.
disabled people, I genuinely believe that strong disabled people scare them.
Oh, absolutely. Because we can't be controlled.
Exactly.
And that is the one thing. I mean, I may be starved to death in poverty one day, whatever, because of my disability. I will not be controlled.
Yeah.
And I truly think that's a lot of the problem. A lot of the parents that despise me and dislike you, we've talked about that, of we are two disabled people that refuse to be controlled.
Right.
And they literally have children that can't stop their parents from photographing them on the toilet and
Or
being
having a
used
seizure
or having a seizure
and
and
posting it.
being used for TikTok content.
Yeah.
So, we are the ones that can say no. And not only can we say no, we have the audacity to say no for the kids that can't.
Yeah.
Because, and they'll always say, it's like, oh, well, my child can't give their opinion. I'm like, well, we are much more likely to be able to extrapolate what their opinion would be than you.
Right.
Like, why do you think they would want something different than any of the other disabled people that are telling you that, like, this is horrendous and perverse and tantamount to kiddie porn?
I
Like,
had a parent get really mad at me in my comment section because they always do. When I said that just because you're a parent of a disabled child doesn't mean that you're in the disability community.
oh, they hate
They
that.
got so mad. They
Oh,
got so mad. She was like, how dare you say that I'm not in the. I know more about the disability community than you do. And I was like, you want to bet?
oh,
I was
it
like,
was,
girl, you don't live with a disability though.
every damn time it is like you racially slurred them and threw them in fire.
It is
Like,
every
it's,
time, like, and then I met with like 4 paragraphs of their comment.
oh
And
yeah,
I'm
because they're so
not reading.
entitled. The,
Why
the
would I read that?
level, the level of entitlement of these parents is just beyond belief.
It's wild to me, especially because like my mom has she has the same syndrome as me, right?
Hmm.
She's average height. she has she has my same syndrome, but on a very, very, very mild level. I
Mm-hmm.
have one of the extreme cases. She has it like barely. She
Yeah.
tests positive for it. We look the exact same. But like she was on a live with me last night and all the comments were like, "You guys could be twins." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks." But she has a limb difference of like half an inch.
Mm-hmm.
She had scoliosis, or she still does, but she just had one surgery for a spinal fusion. Like she has
Yeah.
it on a very mild level. And technically, because of those things, she is disabled. Like she could call herself disabled. Does she? And she will be the first one to tell you that she does not know what the disabled experience is like. She's like, "Oh yeah, I raised a disabled child. I spent every single night with her in the hospital, every single time she was there for her 43 surgeries, but I don't know what it's like to be disabled. I just don't."
And see, that's the thing, and I don't think we talk about it enough in our community, and I think we need to. It is the same thing as you and I also can't understand, and vice versa, what the people with invisible
No.
disabilities. Because we can't comprehend the denial and the things that they have to deal with. They can't understand
No.
the not being able to hide should they
Exactly.
choose.
I just had a conversation with my friend about this with my friend Alyssa, who is going to be on the podcast an episode before this one actually, and we recorded our episode yesterday morning, and she and I were having this conversation. She's deaf, but she
Mm-hmm.
has no other physical disabilities, and the only way that you might be able to tell that she's deaf is A, if you see her hearing aids, or B, she has a slight deaf accent.
Right.
And that's it. And so she was saying, because she works in film, and she was saying sometimes she just wants to be kind of like the undercover disabled person. She doesn't want to tell production ahead of
Yeah.
time that she's disabled because she wants to get there and then like reveal it, and they're like, "Oh, what? Oh my god, disabled people are just like us. That's crazy," you know. And so she's like, but and I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting because I can't do that. Like the second I walk into the room, like I
Yeah.
can't.
Well,
I
and
can't.
I've got a similar thing to that of because my disability only limits me so much and I don't need I mean it limits me but not in the way of like I don't need if there's stairs I can do it. I don't like to. It's not ideal, but I
It's
can
not
do it.
fun, but like,
It's not fun. I much prefer to like elevator or escalator ramp whatever, but I can walk, I can do normie stuff
sure,
for the most part unless you want me to like bend down and tie my shoes. My entire background career, all the stuff I've done background, I have never, other than my height, I don't think it has ever been on my information that my agent gives to prospective workers that I'm disabled.
that's so interesting
And
because
it
that's like
is,
the first thing on
it
my.
is like the, now I think it might have been once in a while from the start because I was, sold a lot more as a specialty when I first started, but that was a lot more because of my height and my look and not because of the way I walked.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure 95% of the time I've gone to set, unless it's been like a recurring thing, they've had no idea
Right.
that like
Like
they know
ahead
they're
of time. Yeah.
yeah they're getting a height whatever, and it has. No, the only time I ever told was when I did that Brandon Cronenberg short that with the nude scene in it, because I knew from the casting call that it was going to be a group of people climbing a flight of stairs, and I said, like and it was it wasn't a big production, it was an independent thing,
Yeah.
so I didn't want to screw the guy over. I said straight out, you know, like, I'm a fan of your work. I'm a fan of your family. I'd like to do this,
Right.
but, you know, I can climb the stairs, but I look really awkward doing it.
Right.
So if that is an issue and that is going to screw up the aesthetic of the scene that you're doing, because I knew it wasn't just going to be, it was pretty clear it wasn't just going to be people like just walking up the stairs in like a mall or something like that. If it was something like that, I wouldn't have said a word.
Right.
But I knew there was going to be an aesthetic to this movie. It was probably going to be a dream sequence or something like that. And I personally just didn't want to throw that off
Right.
with my funny looking way of climbing a set of stairs, especially naked.
Yeah.
And it was, no, we'll deal with it. We'll hide you in the middle of the line or something. You know, or like if we need to like cut you out at that point, whatever. There was another scene in the short. We'll work it out. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
But other than that, I have never said anything, and it has been the most accepting job to my disability I've ever had for the most part.
Yeah.
I've never been in a situation where I have like said to an AD of, you know, if they're doing running chaotic scenes or whatever, of like, okay, I need to go this way because that way is going to have me climb 3 steps. And there's no handrail on this set because of just the way the set is. And I get you're building an aesthetic, whatever.
Sure.
I have very mixed arguments as far as disability and working in the industry. I think it should be absolutely done. I don't think it's always as easy to do as what we would make it out to be.
Sure. Sometimes.
Yes, and like it should absolutely be happening, but I get, having spent so much time on sets, I get why it is they would prefer to just have someone that can get out of the wheelchair at the end of the scene. It sucks, but I get why they want that. They just need to change
I
it.
don't agree with that, but I understand their point of
Yeah.
view.
I also have the issue too of, do we have to have the person with the exact disability that is being portrayed? Because like, can it just be someone who knows disability? Like, can a paraplegic get away with playing a quadriplegic?
I see what you're saying.
And
Like,
I'm
could
not.
I get away with playing a paraplegic even though I'm not a paraplegic, but I'm still disabled?
Yes, like
And I still
I'm
use a
not.
chair. Yeah.
Or like, could they, with the limb difference that you have, could they make you up like an amputee, and would that be okay?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know the answer to that.
could you play someone? Is there a possibility of like maybe with a different prosthetic or something? Could you play someone that say lost their leg in a car accident? Is that okay? Like, or does it have to be, because then when you're trying to portray certain disabled stories, that gets really, really difficult for the way the industry has to work
Well,
and the
the
time
issue with
schedules they're
me
on.
too is that like I have so many disabilities. So many. Um, and so there's never, okay, I'm not going to say never. In my lifetime, I do not think that I will see, unless it's mine, a story that is going to be portrayed about somebody with my syndrome. I don't think so. Just
Oh,
because it is so rare, and so that is the only time I will be able to play somebody with my syndrome. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to
exactly.
play somebody else's disability. I'm so sorry. And I will do it
Exactly.
as respectfully as humanly possible. But like I'm hard of hearing, and
Yeah.
I know ASL could, but like I'm not fully deaf.
So the argument is, and then the argument is, and I've got actually funny story about representation. The argument is, if in 30 years someone is casting for the Cassidy Huff story,
Just put that out there.
do they have to have, do they
Yeah.
have to be not just small, not just like between 4 and 4 or 5? Do they also, does it have to be the same leg? Does it, like, how far?
See,
I
I know that I'm gonna be on that on that creative team because it's going to be me. And
Yeah,
I'm going to have to make those decisions. And I'm going to have to be like, okay, hang on. How many people do we actually have? Because the thing is that even if you're going to cast somebody with my syndrome, nobody has all of the same
exactly.
things. Like they might look like me because for some reason, a lot of all of us with my syndrome look like we could be related. So like
Yeah,
that would be fine. But um I have never seen somebody with my syndrome. And if you're out there, please DM me because that would be really cool. But I've never seen anybody with my syndrome that has the vision and the hearing loss, that
yeah,
has the type of kyphoscoliosis that I have, that has the extreme limb difference that I have, that has I've never seen somebody with all of those things with my syndrome. So then you kind of have to pick and choose. Like, okay,
exactly.
how do I want
Like
to go about
me,
this?
I'm short and I have a limp. I'm not gonna get that mad if someone else that doesn't quite have that is playing me in the story.
Sure.
Now, funny story about representation. I did background on a show called The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sci-fi series. It's on, I think it's still on Prime right now. And through that show, through me being on that show, I know an actor, despite the fact we were never on set together, we were never in the same season together. There's a guy on the show called named Jacob Mundell, plays a character named Eric.
Okay.
He, the character of Eric was lived a hard. It's a dystopia. Lived a hard life. He's a computer expert that basically became a mob boss.
Okay.
And he one hand basically it is a it was limb difference he was born with, but in the series it is supposed to be that his hand was basically severed at the wrist,
Okay.
and he was badly beaten. He walks with a limp. Now he genuinely is missing the hand. He does the role so well that I said to him the first time I met him on the Elon app that I won't actually name.
Sorry,
What
my
is your
dog
dog?
is
Yeah,
making so much noise.
that's okay. But like the first time I was like, man, you are like the representation I didn't know I needed because he walked like
Right.
me, like to a certain level, and he is like this badass crime lord in the show. It was
Right.
great. I didn't find out till years later when I happened to watch one of his things on his YouTube channel. He's acting the limp. And I was just
But
like,
he's genuinely missing a hand.
yes. So he's in the club,
He's
but
in
he
the
doesn't
club,
have my
just not.
particular
Yeah.
disability.
Sure.
But he did it so well and it is so authentic that I had no idea. So I
Right.
can't be mad. I still feel represented.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Now,
like,
if it was an able-bodied person faking or like acting like
yeah.
they were an amputee and had a limp, I would have a problem.
Yeah,
I would
probably.
be like, "You're not in the club. You're not. Get out."
Exactly. Yeah, you're not in the club. The club is real easy to join. I'll get the machete. But no,
Applications are open always.
exactly. I actually want to ask you something, Cassidy. We know this is gonna be a long episode. We're us.
Yeah.
It's quality content. Um, because you and I are different, very different generation. You didn't like we did not grow up in the same world of disability.
Sure.
What do you feel is your most, for lack of a better term, toxic trait that you have developed either from being disabled yourself or from living on the planet of the Ables?
Ooh.
Like, what do you feel something about you that isn't necessarily your disability, but some quirk about you or the way that carries over into and affects other aspects of your life that your disability might not?
Mm. That's a really hard question I've never thought about this actually. Okay, what's yours? While you're telling yours,
Yeah,
I'll think
okay.
about mine.
My big one, and I'm not sure that it is from this, but I think it pretty much has to be of I and sometimes now I go too far in the odd other direction because I'm aware of it of I don't know when to quit.
Mm,
Like especially in like relationships.
interesting.
I don't know when to cut my losses on
Uh,
something. I will always try to like in that business relationship that we talked about at the start of the podcast. I did everything to make sure try and make that work before we finally just like okay, let's just
yeah.
cut that. I have a habit if in when I'm in a relationship of either now either just like cutting my losses very quickly,
Right.
like at first sign of problem, as long as it's early on in the relationship, or just doing every damn thing possible to make sure that I've done everything to make it work.
Mm,
And I think that's because of growing up with that having to, learn how to walk 3 times and having to, just hard work and you can't stop. You don't let that stop you sort of narrative. I
yeah.
think that has carried over into other aspects of my life where it has caused some real
Yeah.
problems.
No,
Like
that's a
just
good
as
one.
far as jobs, as far as relationships, as
Uh,
far as friendships that are not great, whatever. I don't know. I have trouble admitting it's like, no, this isn't working out.
right.
This isn't gonna work out.
Right.
You can't fix this by just adapting
Right.
to the situation. And I can only think it's got to be a carryover from my childhood.
That's a good point. I think mine is kind of on the same level, except with work. Like, people always ask me, how do you create so much content all the time? And I think you're slowly starting to realize that when it comes to content, I'm crazy. Like, I will just
I
pump it out.
wish I had your work ethic for
I just
content.
pump, no, you don't. I just pump it out. But the problem is that I don't know when to stop because I think that I've always been really good at juggling things, and the reason that happened is because I was constantly in and out of the hospital when I was little. And from the ages of 1 to 18, I was having surgery every 6 months. So,
Oh,
and not just procedures, like spine surgery every 6 months.
as someone who had
So,
multiple hip and leg surgeries,
yeah.
I'm kind of lucky in that I was young enough for those that I don't really remember now,
Yeah.
but I have brief reflections.
Yeah. And so life kind of, well, then you know that like life kind of stops when you have surgery
Yeah,
for a second. Like the day of surgery, absolutely. Like that's all that you're doing.
yeah,
And then like even the days leading up, and then the day of surgery, and then the days afterwards, like you have to recover and all that. And because of that, because it was happening every 6 months for the first 18 years of my life,
yeah,
I got really, really good at not letting life stop. And so now, because of that, I am a content machine. And
mm-hmm.
that is not good sometimes. It's great sometimes because I have a routine and I know what I'm doing, but it's not good in the sense that, like, now I'm a workaholic. And also, I don't think I was just talking to somebody else about this because I've never worked a corporate job
Mm-hmm.
and I'm 22 and I've only ever worked for myself. I don't think I could ever have a boss.
Oh, I couldn't do
because
it
I
again.
can't be told what to do. So I'm like, I'm very much a director at heart. I've always been that way. If I don't like something, I'm gonna tell you I don't like something, and if you don't do it right the second time, I'm just gonna do it myself. So, but
When
because
you're
of that, it's really difficult for me to either let somebody help me. Physically, I can be like, I need help with that. But anything work wise, I'm like, nope, I got it. I can do it all. I can do it all. And I have proven to myself time and time again that I actually can. And so now
which is more dangerous.
I don't have a limit. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I got it. I'm going to run myself into the ground. And so I've been really trying to scale back and be like, I need to take today off. That is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, because you've also had to constantly prove yourself as
Oh,
well.
100%.
Where I went the opposite direction in my youth of I stopped trying to prove myself.
Mm,
I was a horrible student. Like until like my second college career of like going into art school, I was an abysmal student because
yeah,
I did not care.
right.
Because I thought in childhood, I thought my diagnosis was much more dynamic than what it is. I mean, things have
Mm-hmm.
definitely changed, but you would have had trouble like convincing grade 5, 6, 7 me that I would not be like institutionalized by now for
Yeah.
not being able to care for myself. So for me, it was sort of like, why the hell am I sitting here in this classroom? I was smart enough to know that, like, Mr. Veen's eighth grade science project didn't really mean anything in the
Yeah.
greater scheme of things anyway. And I was just an absolutely abysmal student.
Yeah.
Like, I am smart, I am not book smart. I am like, I've just possibly looked into like maybe doing a writing project, and I am partly dreading that because my writing skills and my talking skills are two very, very different things.
Yeah.
I've developed my voice. I have not developed my writing ability. I can
Sure.
write, and I can write fairly well, but I need a hell of an editor to be
Yeah.
like, okay, what is going on here?
Let me fix this.
Yeah, and I mean it's more just like the rules of like punctuation and things like that, where I never learned it because I essentially got railroaded into remedial English because I was a
Sure.
crappy student. I
Yeah.
didn't care. Even in a high school, for the most part, if I say straight up that if my high school had not had so many history classes, I would not have graduated. The only way I got all the credits I had to get was we had like 9 history credits available to us.
Yeah. Well, I think that was my problem. I think that still is my problem and probably toxic trait too, is that because I had to prove myself, I went so far in the opposite direction that you did, that anytime anybody was like, you can't do that, I'd be like, I'm sorry, what? Say it again? What was that? And I just work really, 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 really hard to do that. To get that, not only get to that goal, but like exceed it so far to where you had no choice but to be impressed. And
Yeah.
so my mom and my grandma, this is a really good example. My mom and my grandma at a really young age sat me down and they were like, listen, so this whole singing thing that you want to do for a living, um, that's great. You're good at it. You really are. But like maybe let's have a backup plan too.
Yeah.
Because not very many people make it in the arts. And I was like, I'm sorry, are you saying I can't do it? And they were like, well, I mean, you look like, well, and you don't have friends. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. And that, even at like 4 or 5 years old, I was like, guess what I'm doing? And then they were like, usually college is like 4 years. And I was like, are you saying I can't graduate in half that amount? And they were like, nobody, literally nobody said that. And I was like, great, I'm already doing it. So, those kinds of things where I'm like,
Yeah.
you say that I can't make good living off of social media? Guess what? So
Exactly.
I have, but that's like so far ingrained into my being that if you even slightly, if you're like, hey, maybe let's think about a different way to do this. My mom can't say, I really don't think you can do that. Because she knows. Like, she
Yeah.
has to come up with different verbiage to be like, Cassidy, no, that's not a good idea. Because otherwise I'll be like, did you just say I can't do that? Guess what I'm doing? Guess what my new career is? And she's like, oh my God. Because she knows that I will not only do that thing, but I will get so good at it. I will master it to the point that it's like a problem. Like, it's an issue.
So
Because then I'll be like, do you see how good I got at that? Yeah. So,
yeah.
sucks to be you. My mom's
And
like, please.
I gotta ask because I mean, yes, I worked a lot of like dead end jobs before I got on assistance, and then was just like, okay, if I have to live like this anyway, I'm just never gonna work if I don't want to work again.
Sure.
I'm never gonna work. I don't ever want a boss again. But at the same time, because and you also seem to have that of like you only ever want to work for yourself. How does that work for you on set? Because I have found being on set is the only place in the world that I don't mind having a boss, and for the most part don't mind with putting up with BS,
Yeah.
with the exception of one time where I threatened to punch a caterer.
Not a
Actually,
caterer.
no, wait. I didn't. Let me get this straight. I did not threaten to punch the caterer. I dared the. We were on set, and by this point, I had been doing background for almost a decade, so I was sort of like legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the new guys, we were up in the line getting our food, and one of the new guys, I guess, had took from the vegetarian pasta option and the meat pasta option. Now,
Okay.
most people did that because you never knew which one was going to be worse, and you
Okay.
were hedging your bets.
Sure.
The food was not good on this set, um, and the catering guy goes off on the background actor beside me and starts like freaking out on him, and he makes a threat to this kid. And I very calmly looked over at this guy and said, "Excuse me, threaten me." What? No, no, no. Don't threaten him. No, no, no. Don't look at him. Look at, and I
Don't look
am
at.
for, I am, this is a zombie set, okay? This was like Resident Evil Afterlife or something.
Uh huh.
So I am covered in gore. I have been a zombie on this set for like 4 days straight. I've stopped trying to get the stuff off when I get home.
You just
I
keep it on and
am
then go to work the next
literally
day.
I had a shirt like this on, like that waffle sort of like
Yeah.
uh uh long johns type material.
Sure.
Where it's like that sort of waffle fabric. It was so caked in fake blood that was made of corn syrup that I could crack the shirt like it was plastic. So I am just covered in gore. I have been up since like 5 a.m. It's lunchtime. The food is just disgusting. And this caterer is threatening someone. And I was just like, no, no, we're not doing this. I will take a lot of crap from everyone on this set. I will take crap from directors, from ADs, whatever. I am not taking it from the caterer. And it's like, threaten me and see what happens. I don't care if I get thrown off this set. I don't care if I never work again. Threaten me. Watch what happens.
So did they?
No.
No.
Because when you come in with that energy, most people won't.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the people that will end your life, will try to want to end your life. Because then you're dealing with a whole different type of person.
Sure.
But about half an hour later, we're still on lunch break. One of the ADs, who has known me from other stuff, comes up to me and is like, "Wes, I hear there was an incident." And I said, "Yeah." She's like, can you tell me what happened? And I explained, I'm in catering. This, the new BG is getting yelled at by the caterer. The caterer threatened the background actor. I told the
I stepped
caterer,
in.
I stepped in and gave the caterer the opportunity to threaten me. He's lucky he didn't make the offer. He's lucky he didn't take the offer. I said, you know me. I've been doing this for a long time. I understand that the poop rolls downhill in this job. You take it from people above you. They take it from the people above you. I am perfectly willing to do that. I get that this is part of the job. I'm a lowly background actor. I am not going to take it from the caterer.
Yeah.
If you have to throw me off set, I understand. I hope that I will not be blacklisted completely. And you know what happened? That was on a Friday. Saturday we came back. Monday we came back. We had a new catering company.
Yep.
And the food was slightly better. Because I was just like, no. And that's for the most part, that's a lot of the altercations I get in, is someone is messing with someone else. And I just come in with very large dog for a small dog energy. And like, no, you're not gonna do this.
Yeah.
You're like, threaten me and watch what happens. Like, talk crap to me and see what happens.
Yeah,
And
I'm the same way on
always
the
been
set.
like that.
I don't mind a director. Like, if I'm the actor on the set, I really don't mind having a director tell me what to do. In fact, because I went to a conservatory, because of my training, I prefer having someone tell me what to do. I'm like, you want me to go here? Okay, I'll go there. But like, I'm so good at taking direction.
Yeah.
In that only that instance, if you try to tell me what to do, otherwise, I'm not gonna follow your. I'm. If I ask you for advice, I'll take your advice usually if it's good. But direction, no.
The only time I have gotten frustrated on set is when they won't let me do anything physical. Now, part of that now is because of they've been really stingy in the Ontario filming of like giving people upgrades because they don't want to pay anyone more. So they don't want people to try and like get themselves an upgrade. We've literally been told it's like if you're asked to do something and you think that should get upgraded, explain to them and don't do it because we can't do upgrades on this production.
Yeah.
But like I was doing, I don't remember. I think it was a show called Flashpoint.
Okay.
And I was playing a drug user, a drug addict, as what I typically end up doing. And I've been a lot of drug addicts, a lot of homeless people. I used to have like a closet full of homeless clothes.
Love that.
But yeah, we're in like this drug den and I'm sitting on, I don't know, I guess the arm of a couch.
Okay.
And the SWAT team busts in because somebody has kidnapped one of their own or whatever and they're looking for him. The SWAT team busts in and tells everyone to hit the floor. So I very gingerly, in every take, slide my butt off of the arm of the chair onto the seat of the chair.
Right.
And then just sort of like fall onto the floor, onto the carpet, very gently. Everything's good. I do it twice. AD comes over, is like, should you be doing that? I'm like, I am following the easiest. I was like, trust me, I am not going to do anything on. I am not going to do anything on this set that is remotely physically uncomfortable because you're not paying me enough.
Yeah.
Like I have put myself through hell on sets for certain things, but I have also gotten very aware. I got very aware very fast of. I don't do a scene moving any faster than I think I can move.
Yeah.
1,000 times because I made that mistake on my second or third production. I was in a musical called Repo the Genetic Opera. On that set, first take, I did a very, very high energy performance. I didn't know I would be giving that same performance
18 more times that day.
And then for another 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, okay, no. Like, I'm at the point now of the last few background gigs I was doing, I was bringing a cane with me.
Yeah.
Not so much because I needed the cane at the start of the day, but I might
I
need the
need it
cane
at
at
the
the
end.
end of the day. So the
Yeah.
cane became part of the thing, and that it also slowed me down.
Yeah.
It kept me from moving faster than I should move.
Exactly.
Because I get very hyper on set. I get very bouncy and like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Because that's like
And
your world. That I get the
yeah,
same way.
I for the
The
most part I
adrenaline,
love it.
it spikes.
There are very few sets where except that Resident Evil set where I've been like miserable throughout the
Yeah.
whole experience.
Yeah.
But you know, the one where they made me a hero zombie, soaked me wet, and then didn't use me and left me sitting there for 3 hours was damn annoying. Because there's nothing like being wet with that gel goop that's kind of like Astroglide
Mm-mm.
in front of a heating lamp
Mm-mm.
wearing hero zombie makeup, so you're just covered in latex
Uh,
and heavy wet clothing. And
for
I'm
so
just and I
long.
wish they had told me that they were going to want me to run. Actually, apparently the fact that I couldn't run wasn't the problem. They decided I was too small on camera. After they got me there. I'm like, seriously?
Oh my god. Okay. This leads me into my last question for you.
Okay.
I, on my social media, my main demographic is between the ages of 13 and 18 years old, usually. Sometimes they're a little bit older, they're my age, but usually young people. And I get questions all the time in my comments or even in DMs of young disabled people asking me how to be more confident, how to, get that big dog in the small dog kind of energy. Um, so my question is, what would your advice be for young disabled people out there that might be watching or listening?
How disabled land do you want me to get here, Cassidy?
You can get disabled land.
Okay, because I'm going to give two answers to this. I'm going to give the general answer,
Okay.
and then I am going to give an answer to what I needed to hear as a young
Okay.
disabled man.
Okay.
Because I fully admit that if I was in your generation now, everything about my life experience being the same with the internet and with the things out there, that I would probably, the Andrew Tates of the world would have their claws so deep into me it would not be funny.
Yeah.
To the general, and it depends on the severity of your disability, it depends how, you know, whether or not you can possibly deal with the consequences of these actions. I say that straight out. Don't take crap from anybody. I don't care if it is a teacher, I don't care if it is a parent, or a caregiver. I don't care if it is some jackass on the street. I don't care if it's some 8-year-old kid. Look them in the eye, say, I will marry one of your parents and I will sell your Xbox. Don't be afraid to, in whatever way you can communicate, to talk shit.
Yeah.
And don't meet disrespect. Don't be afraid to meet disrespect of you with an equal amount of disrespect.
Mm.
I have had people. There was one incident I had. I was going into an inaccessible nightclub, and there was a guy behind me and my roommate at the time that was bitching about how slowly I was climbing the stairs.
Excuse me?
Without even turning around, I said, without even looking to see how big the guy was, I just like, bro, you and I can, if that's a big an issue for you, you and I can go back down these stairs, both of us, real quick. I'm already in constant pain. I don't care. He shut up real quick. For the most part, you will, now eventually one day you'll bite off more than you can chew. I'll warn you about that right now. But for the most part, people I kind of hate the term bully, especially when adults are using it, but the bullies of the world, the trolls of the world, don't know what to do with you when you meet them with the same energy they come at you with.
Right.
They have no concept. So just, if they try to make, and you know, the swearing for the end, if they try to make you eat shit, don't be afraid to spit it back in their faces.
Yeah.
For the young disabled men out there, I'm sure the girls have similar issues. Maybe Cassidy can speak to this. But for the young disabled men out there, I'm honestly going to say, you're going to get laid. That is genuinely, and you can cut this if you want, Cassidy. I get
No,
that.
I agree. I
But
agree.
like, what I desperately needed to hear from like the 8th grade, probably until I was probably between, oh, I don't know, 20, was that it's sort of like, you know how they say, like, to the LGBTQ kids, it's going to get better?
Yeah,
I say to the young disabled men, you're going to get laid.
it's true.
It's going to happen. High school girls don't know what to do with you. Don't worry about it. It may be a
To
little
the
bit
disabled
different.
girls out there, high school men, high school boys, don't know what to do with
You
you.
are, my sex, it took longer. My sex life got much better in my 30s than it ever was. But like, if you don't deal with that fact of, yes, you're going to get laid, it very nearly destroyed the first relationship I had in my 20s, because I could not believe this woman
Yeah,
wanted to sleep with me,
yeah,
and I kept waiting for the punchline. I kept
yeah.
waiting for the joke of like, we had slept together and I was
Right.
still waiting for the ha 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 thing,
Yeah.
because I had been jerked around so much in grade school
I
and
mean, it's
earlier in high
true.
school.
Yeah, I mean, my
Like,
best friend's. Oh, they're gonna kill me for saying this. My best friend is a 20-year-old, 20-something-year-old man, and you'll never find him on social media. You won't. Don't go looking, guys. I promise. He's there. You won't find him. But we've been friends for 15 years, something like that, since we were really, really young. We met at a camp for disabled kids. That's all the info I'm going to give you. And because I know people are crazy on here, they'll find him real fast. Anyways, um, he's in college, and that's like a real concern of his is that, like no girl, no woman out there is ever going to want to sleep with him. And that's a real issue for disabled kids, especially teenage disabled kids. Like that's a real problem is that you're never going to have a long-term relationship. You're never going to sleep with anybody. You're never going to have those experiences that you see all of your peers having.
and I'm going to say something else to that. While you're waiting, or when you get, excuse me, T burp, when you get that first relationship and it starts to get physical, you go out, you get yourself a book, you get yourself an owner's manual, you learn what you're doing, you study, you do your research, you get good.
Libraries have them
You
for free.
learn you learn how to please before you learn how to be pleased. I
Also,
swear to
be
God.
honest. Be so honest with your partner as well. Be so real. And tell them that, like, this is your first time doing anything and, like, you don't know what you're doing because that's okay.
Yeah, and like truly do
And
that.
you're gonna be okay. I promise.
But I'm telling you, I know from experience, a disabled man that knows what he's doing will blow their damn mind because they're not necessarily expecting it. Legends will grow about you. Just
Not the
learn what you're doing.
legends.
Wait for it if you have to. Learn what you're doing, but it will happen. I promise you. You will get
Hey, even
laid.
if you're not in a relationship, go to your local library and get that book.
Exactly. Learn now.
There's an app called Libby out there. Do it. Like, it's a library app. You can
Exactly.
get it. Um, if you need a zip code in the to get your LA Public Library card, use 90028. That was my old zip code in LA County, and you can use that zip code and get a free LA Public Library card, and I guarantee you they have those books.
Exactly. So like yeah, that's what it is cuz you get being disabled and young is a huge mind screw and it messes with your head. Cassidy and I have just talked about this here in other aspects. Like you don't know the good stuff that can happen. And I get worried about like a whole mess of like incel disabled men, young men being out there that are then also going to be treated like crap by that community just because they're disabled. And it's
Well, I worry about disabled kids in general because I didn't grow up with TikTok. I didn't grow up with Instagram. Like that came in my more like early teens. So I spent my teenage years with those apps. But as a child, seeing all these non-disabled people out there and like these lifestyle channels and like these the pictures of like what women should look like or
the
whatever,
thirst
that
traps.
would have messed with me as a child.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't imagine now, and like I'm still in the same generation as these kids. I can't imagine the kind of turmoil that
And,
can
and I
happen.
and I grew up before the internet pretty much existed. So
Yeah. And like I had a little bit of that, and like I still do. You know, I'm a girl in my 20s, and I don't think it ever leaves you either. I think you kind of always get FOMO about like looking at other people's lives or looking at what other people look like or whatever. But I think that you got to realize it's not real. Social
exactly.
media is fake. I've
Yep.
never lied to you about anything in my life on social media. I never have, I swear to God. But most people, all the lifestyle influencers you see, all the models you see, their lives never look like always look
Oh
like that.
hell no.
They don't always look like that. And I think for disabled people specifically, seeing all these non-disabled people and it just can be really damaging. So just know things are gonna happen. You're fine. You're
Exactly.
okay.
Everything is under control on this burning cinder in which we live.
That part. Wes, thank you for joining me.
Wes is coming off the rails. It's time for Wes to go
He's
back to
coming
disabled
off the rails.
land.
Anyways, if you want to see more of me, go check out Wes's podcast. If you don't want to see more of me, still go check out Wes's podcast. Make sure to. Oh wait, where can people find you?
Honestly, right now, because Meta is slowly, rapidly degrading now, I am Wes underscore at underscore Wes of Wes
Back up.
underscore of underscore disabled land on Instagram. It'll be in the show notes and on disabled land at Blue Sky. It is best to just find me on Blue Sky. The Meta platforms are rapidly going downhill. I'm on TikTok, but I don't exist on TikTok. I'm not even going to say where I am on TikTok. You can find me if you really want to. And yeah, I guess that does it. Oh, and disabledland.threadless.com for your merch. And yeah, I think
And
that's it. That's all I
disabled
need to
land
promote here.
everywhere on
Disabled land
podcast.
everywhere. Yes. Yes.
Well, please make sure to go like, subscribe, comment what you want to see next or who you want to see next on this podcast, and give a 5-star rating depending on where you're watching or listening from. Make sure, even though Meta's going downhill, please God, go follow me on the platforms because this is my full-time job, guys. Go follow me on TikTok and all other platforms because I do post on Instagram, Facebook Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts every single day. I have a YouTube vlog that comes out every Wednesday and a podcast episode here on The View from 4 Feet and 3 Inches every single Sunday. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.